All right, we're going to get started here. Welcome, everyone. This is the Bay Delta Conservation Plan Effects Analysis Review, Phase 3 of the review. This review is focused on assessing the science used in the BDCP effects analysis and associated technical appendices. I'm Lindsay Correa from the Delta Science Program, and I'll be facilitating the public portion of the review panel meeting. So today's meeting will consist of introductions, presentations on the BDCP effects analysis, and discussion between the panel and presenters. The day will conclude with public comment on the science review. If you wish to make a public comment relevant to this science review, please fill out a blue slip, which are located on the back table, and provide it to me before the public comment period. So tomorrow morning, the panel will meet privately to deliberate and develop their initial recommendations. The panel will report out and have additional discussion with today's presenters, and they will report out their recommendations starting at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So just a few logistics. The restrooms are kind of passed down the hallway a bit if you go right and around the casino. So if people have questions about that, look for the signs. We will post the archived webcast on our website after the review, and as well as the presentations from the review panel meeting. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Peter Goodwin, the lead scientist for the Delta Science Program, for official welcome remarks. So Peter.
Thank you, Lindsay, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, this is working. So just by way of background for those of you who haven't been following the process for the last 3 years, at the request of the agencies responsible for the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, the Delta Science Program was asked to convene an independent science review panel to assess the scientific soundness of the BDCP effects analysis. The effects analysis, of course, is an absolutely critical component of the BDCP, and it's intended to provide the best scientific assessment of the likely effects of BDCP actions on the species of concern and the ecological processes within the Bay Delta ecosystem. I'd like to stress what this panel is about. This review is all about the science of BDCP and only the science. It's not about the policy or decisions regarding implementation. The importance of the role of science in guiding the development and review of the BDCP is very well established in state law under the Delta Reform Act, which is overseen by the Delta Stewardship Council, and in several statements by Governor Brown and the Secretaries of the U.S. Departments of Interior and Commerce. We would also like to acknowledge the role of Sue Fry and Reclamation staff and Laura King-Moon and her staff at DWR for really seeing out the spirit as well as the letter of the law. They have made it very clear they want the highest quality scientific review to guide future refinements in the analysis. And both agencies, along with their consultants, ICF, have been very responsive to the requests of the science program as well as those requests from the panel. Just to put this project in perspective, we all know that this is a massively complex open system. We also know that this system is not in a static state of equilibrium. It's highly dynamic and responding to multiple stresses and multiple management actions. So this is an incredibly difficult problem. And of course, we do know a lot about the Bay Delta system, as this is one of the most studied estuaries in the world. But there is considerable uncertainty, and it's very challenging to predict outcomes in such an open system, particularly when we make a major perturbation that is outside what the system has experienced in the past. As scientists, when we conduct reviews, we're trained, and our tendency is to focus on the areas which are either poorly understood or inadequately analyzed. However, we've been asking more of this particular panel. This scientific analysis has been a massive undertaking, and the analysis framework and methodology is likely to form the basis for understanding the future of the Delta ecosystem, irrespective of whether BDCP goes ahead or not. So the panel is asked to comment on the robustness of the analytical framework, as well as the strength and challenges of the analysis approach. Where are the greatest uncertainties, and have they been quantified adequately? This is very important as managers in the future will have to determine whether there is sufficient flexibility and contingencies within the adaptive management framework to compensate for the uncertainties or unanticipated consequences. We'd also like to point out that this is the third phase of the review. Sam Harrider and Lindsay Correa have shepherded this process from the beginning with their usual attention to detail. The first review was in October 2011. Some of the panel members were wondering just how long it has actually been. And the panel gave some preliminary impressions of the proposed approach. Your ICF responded and summarized those changes soon after that first review. The second phase of the review in June 2012 was when the effects analysis was completed, but there was still work going on some of the key appendices. ICF also indicated what they would find helpful in the review process to further refine their analyses. And here we are in January 2014. The charge for this panel in the third review was developed with considerable input from the responsible agencies, particularly the fish agencies. ICF provided a briefing on the 23rd of December, and as part of that briefing gave a roadmap as what have changed, how they've responded to the panel's recommendation, and how the analysis had been modified since the second phase. For the outcomes of your panel, so you know how your work is going to be used, the findings of this panel will be used to refine the BDCP effects analysis, inform other reviews of BDCP, including those performed by the responsible agencies, the Delta Stewardship Council, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Delta Independent Science Board, and regulatory agencies and the public. On behalf of the Delta Science Program, we would like to thank the planning team for their dedication and perseverance over the last 3 years through all phases of the review, and for the numerous recommendations and input from many others. And last but not least, we would like to thank the panel for your dedication, flexibility, and willingness. I'm not sure if back in 2011 you'd fully appreciated the journey that you've been undertaking. So we appreciate your humor, your dedication, and the very considerable effort that you've put into these reviews. What I'd like to do now is just perhaps you go down the line for those people who are watching on the internet or here in the room who aren't aware of who you are. Maybe we could just go down the line. You could introduce yourselves and give a little of your background, who you work for, and what your area of expertise is. And Luke, should we start way down at the end?
I'm Luke George at Colorado State University, and my background is in terrestrial ecology, and in particular avian ecology and demography.
Hello, my name is Nancy Monson, and I am currently a visiting scholar at Stanford University. And my background is I am a hydrodynamicist. My expertise is the flow in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, specifically doing multidimensional hydrodynamic modeling in that region.
My name is Alex Parker. I'm an assistant professor of oceanography at the California Maritime Academy, and my research interests are on the biogeochemistry of estuaries.
My name is Greg Ruggiero. I'm with Natural Resources Consultants in Seattle, Washington, and I work on salmon management and ecology around the Pacific Rim.
I'm Charles Simonstead, a research professor at the School of Aquatic and Fisheries Sciences at the University of Washington. I'm an estuarine coastal marine ecologist and have spent the past few decades working extensively on coastal restoration.
I'm John Scalzi from the School of Aquatic and Fisheries Sciences, also from the University of Washington. I'm a biometrician as well as a fish and wildlife demographer with about 20 years experience working on salmonids in the Columbia River.
Tom Parker. I'm a professor of biology at San Francisco State. I'm a community ecologist with a wetland ecology background.
Okay, well, thank you, panel, and thank you also for the considerable time that you've already invested. And perhaps just to summarize, I'd like to stress again for the members of the public and those that might comment, This is just about the science. This is what the discussion that you'll be hearing over the next 2 days. And as Lindsay will be moderating the meeting, for those of you who don't know Lindsay, you don't mess with her. So just science questions, please. So thank you, Lindsay. I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Peter.